Hello and welcome to my Zero to Hero Keystone guide for noobs. In this video I'm going to teach you what I use to reach Keystone Hero and more, and what you can do to easily achieve this feat as well. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is your mentality. You have to understand that even though you've been playing this game for very long, you may not know everything there is about your class or some of the dungeons themselves, and this is something that you need to admit to yourself, that maybe you are not as good as you can be, and you have to accept that you need to improve and criticize your own gameplay to see what you can improve to be better at whatever job that you are doing, either if it's healing, tanking, or damage dealing. The second thing that I would say is that in order to have a easy experience doing dungeons or raids or whatever, is to use certain add-ons. Now, if some people don't necessarily like using add-ons, but the question here is, can you perform at the same level without those add-ons? Whereas if you had those add-ons, you'll have an easier time to perform, and I'm going to show you why. The first thing that you can see is that I have a different HP bar on the top of the mob, and this is from Quasi's nameplates. The add-on is Plater. You can go to Google and write Quasi Plater nameplate profile, and you should have this page up. What you can do from here is very simple. You can also get the shared media here audio cues for certain dungeon queues, which for me helps, because a lot of the times us DPSers are just tunnel visioning our damage, and we forget sometimes to step on the left or on the right, and we get one-shotted by random frontals or whatever is happening. And an audio cue really helps us with our attention on, hey, something is coming, either use a defensive to help the healers or interrupt or whatever you need to do. Step 2, as you can see here, make sure to install the player add-on first. This is the link, and then you have a copy string for the player profile. Click link here. So what you do is you open this link, you copy this link here, and you go to the game, you open Plater nameplates, and you will have an import button for profiles here, and you just import the profile, and there you go, everything is set up for you. This does two things. Quasi has a guide on what his profile does, but basically what mainly this does for me is it colors the caster mobs on purple, so that I know what mobs to focus on. When I'm in a bunch of like 8 mobs pulled, or 10, when you're in there and you're doing damage, at one point the mobs will cast, and you don't really want to start switching targets in the middle of your rotation while you're trying to dodge shit. So it's always good to just have your main target on the caster from the get-go, so you can interrupt the moment it happens. I also use, works for warrior, but you might use it on other classes, probably more melee oriented. I use action targeting, and I'm gonna show you here. So enable action targeting. This does two things for me. If I don't select the target the moment I go in, when I move, my skills will hit whatever target is near me. But if I have this target here on the left and I have to dodge to the right, I can't no longer sometimes be able to hit the same target, right? There's like a range to it. So this makes me lose DPS, whereas with the action targeting thing, it doesn't, right? So you just spam your skills continuously anyway. This is mostly for melee. Range don't really have that problem, but it really helps. Other than that, what else I can tell you? The next thing that I'm using is guides for the dungeons that you're doing. There are 2 people that I usually watch for understanding a mechanic that maybe you don't get too well when you're running a dungeon. First is Terrells, and the second guy is Tactics. What I like about Tactics is that he also has a mythic dungeon route on wego.io, so you can just write his name in the search bar and you'll find him, or just click his name. And what you can see here is he has a pug friendly routes for each affix every time, and you can use this if you're, this is mostly for tanks, but you can use this to see how the route is going to go and where you should use your offensive cooldowns and what you should expect. How this works is you just click it, you copy the import string, you go into the game, you have Mythic Dungeon Tools add-on, and you import it here. After you import it, you select the week that you're at, and then you can see how the dungeon is going to be pulled by the tank. Or if you're the tank, this is going to help you immensely with your pulling. Now, to keep something in mind, this game is supposed to be a multiplayer online game, which means normally you have to interact with other people in order to make most of the content. So if you have some friends that can play with you, that is always the better case to do things together with a pre-made group rather than pugging or doing it with random people, because your experience is just gonna be far better. I only did it with random people until 2.8k, and I'm pretty happy with that. I no longer really wish to push more. I could pull to 3k, but the question for me is, why would I do that when I know it's going to be pretty hard thing to do with pugs that, you know, they fuck up, they die, and I cannot control what other people do. I cannot communicate with them on Discord and so on. So for now, I'm pretty okay with it. Now, the next thing you're going to have to use on WoW, there are different weak auras that I use, which is one of them is here for every class. This is Luxos UI class aura, but you can use whatever. So if you write his name here, right, you're gonna get auras for most classes. And this is not him though, like these are people who are using his aura, and then they're like, you're gonna have to scroll a little bit, but once you find the original guy who make this, you can find the auras and how they look for each class. You can also try and find other people that are maybe streaming and their auras, or ask them for it and they'll link it for you. And you can also find other useful things. For example, I use a whirlwind aura so that when I whirlwind, I have a big yellow thing in the middle that shows me when it is going to go off, so I know when to use it again in an AoE situation. Even though I have this bar here, I might not always pay attention to it, but I know that this disappeared and I'm gonna use it again. The next thing that you need to do, this is very helpful for certain classes. I would say if you don't like using this, you don't have to. You can just make your bars bigger and put them a little bit on the middle of the screen so that you know and you can see your buttons and what to press. Next thing that I did was go to raider.io. You go to the class that you play and you check and talk with people that play your class. For example, there's Cryptcake sometimes streaming, there's Byzantine streaming now, there's Mad Spatula, there's Noxiv, although Noxiv doesn't really have a community Discord and doesn't stream too much, but sometimes you get him on. Gucci Warrior is streaming, Juventus has a community and streaming, so I talked a lot with Mad Spatula. I mean a lot. I just went to his Discord, asked a couple of questions, he helped me out with certain macros for Warrior that makes my life way easier for Fury and so on. And I also watch his streams mostly because he is mostly pugging. So if you watch maybe some other guys that are streaming, they might have a pre-made group, and so their experience in dungeon is a little bit different from yours. But Matt Spatula is doing it with random, so you can see what he focuses on when he's doing with random people. That's kind of all of the resources that I use. I'm going to show you the add-ons that I use and why I use. So there's this sound pack that you can find on Quasi that's said by You can, this is a weak aura, so if you write in here, I think if you write his name, you will find it. Yeah, so you will find a lot of stuff with this. Other than that, big wigs you need for raid, and you need it for little wigs, which is for dungeons. Classic numbers, I use it just to turn the numbers off. So as you can see, I don't have damage numbers off. I don't need it. I have DPS meter to see my damage. And the second reason that I use DPS meter is because it will show me, I can realize if I did something wrong in a pool, if my damage is not what it's supposed to be. So it helps me out to see how I'm faring besides others. The next thing that I use is cooldown count, so I can see a big ass yellow number when I use cooldowns, right? So this helps me see when my skills are gonna come back up exactly, so I know what I have for the next pull. What else do I use? Details damage meter. Faster loot, get the fuck out is good because if you stay in shit on the ground that takes damage, that you take damage from, it will tell you with a big loud noise that you should move, and you will, trust me. Alright, next we have Mapster. This is only to make my map transparent when I move, so when I fly I can see where I'm actually going while looking at the map. Mythic Dungeon Tools, which is this is very helpful because if, for example, you're wiping to a pack and you don't know why, you can also right click and see what is killing you and what you need to kick, which is usually fiery enchant and other stuff. So this is how you learn the run and dungeon. At the same time, you also watch a guide from someone who explains it very well, and you will understand how easy it is in fact to do the dungeon. OmniCD I use to track the interrupts. I think this is for the interrupts for the party. You cannot see it here because I'm not in a party, but it's useful to see who has interrupts, especially in high keys, because you need to interrupt stuff. Raider.io I used, and weak auras. Raider.io I use for one purpose mainly, which is when I post a key, some people, for example, like right now I have a +22 key, and if I post it, there's gonna be some people who only did, like, for example, +18, and they just want to jump from a +18 or a 19 directly to a 22, and I can't have that for two reasons. One, it's not because I have a problem with the guy applying, but it's because I know that most of the time when you pug, he's going to die, because he's not expecting that big damage that comes from a +22 key. He's not gonna use his defenses properly, and he won't expect that damage, and he's just going to ruin the key. So that's why I prefer to use this add-on. The other thing is that sometimes people try to boost other people in like a +16, and honestly, boosting other people is not really why I'm there. Like, there are people who just have look, like this guy has 1k rating, and like I am very skeptical about this guy's rating, you know. Like, he probably got boosted, he got a big key in the chest, and now he's just queuing for it. And the problem with this is that most of the times this guy doesn't have the necessary gear to run that dungeon, and two things happen. One, the dungeon takes way too long, and two, he might just die or not do enough damage so for us to have like a fun experience, and that's how it is. The last two things I would say is, one, don't, if you're gonna pug like me, try to not get mad when your group fails. It's part of the experience. You just quit, you go to another key and you do it again. That's how I did it, and you know, I also get a little bit mad sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. I'm there to do something, I did it, and so can you. And the last thing, which is quite obvious for a lot of people, but maybe not, is I come back to the first thing that I said, which is you might not know everything about the game in your class, and you should learn your class from the people that are top 100 warriors. This is why I watch their streams and learn from them, because some of them also have small guides on YouTube that explain how to play. For example, Fury Warrior, Mads Patolo has like a 2-minute guide on it and explains his rotation, his burst and all that, and his macros. So for example, I have a macro on Warrior with Recklessness and Odin's Fury, and then I have Avatar with Thunderous Roar. You can also use Wowhead to understand your basic ability rotation of your class first. I also do that sometimes, but honestly, it depends on who writes the guide and also when the guide was written, because some things change while there's like time going on in the expansion. For example, there was a guide that said in your opener use Recklessness with Thunderous Roar, even though from what I understand it's better to use Avatar and then Thunderous Roar after for more damage. So that's not mentioned in a Wowhead guide, but is mentioned by top 10 warriors. So you know, these little differences, people should go back and change their guide or edit it to current information, so that when people read your guide, they're not gonna get different information from two sources. It should be the same info on how you play your class. And it's about understanding how your class works. Learn your class, understand maybe some of the passive skills or that have an effect on you. For example, Warrior has the Enrage effect, which basically makes you it raises your critical chance a lot, and increases your damage done by 41%. And there's also some talents here probably that affect that, right? So reading your talents and how it all works. I mean, Fury Warrior is not very hard to play, but for example, there's Odin's Fury has a dot, and how you use it is because you have Titan's Torment, which when you cast Avatar, you also cast another Odin's Fury. What you do is you first cast your first Odin's Fury, you wait for the dot to go off, and then you use Avatar for another dot and AoE, and this helps with your damage. But these are small things that may or may not be mentioned in a guide, and these are things that you learn from people streaming. Now, unfortunately, not every class is gonna have people streaming. So for example, I've never seen shamans here ever having a stream, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna find someone on YouTube explaining how you do stuff, right, on your class. And you know, not all streamers have a guide on YouTube for you to understand their mentality. So you're just gonna have to search and find whatever fits your needs and the information that you're seeking. Other than that, I hope you have a great New Year's Eve, and if you liked the video, please subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what I can help you out with next, and good luck with your push. See you.